What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be taking some turkey spurs from some birds we killed in the 2020 season, and we're going to be cleaning them up and getting them ready to go on some tailfan mounts. Stick with us. What a roller coaster of a season it has been. Came in downwind, it actually winded me. So like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be taking these turkey spurs and cleaning them up in order to put them on some fan mounts. I'm basically going to cut them down to size, and then we're going to boil them in the buck boiler for 2 hours. And then we're going to take the skin off of them and peel them down to the bone. And then we're going to make sure that they're the exact size that we want them to be. We're going to clean that bone up, whiten it, make sure there's no marrow or anything inside of these things. When we're done with everything, we may sand on them just a little bit and then put some clear nail polish remover on them just to give them a little bit of an extra shine on the spur part anyways. And we should have a finished product. So step one to that is cutting these things down to size. So there's a bunch of different ways you can cut these things down to size. You can do it by hand with a hacksaw, or you can use some kind of motorized saw. I have this little Dremel saw, and it works really well for cutting these things down. So I'm going to use this, and there's a couple of different lengths I'm going to cut these things, and these are some spurs I've already started working on. But for the spurs that are going to go on the fan mounts, I like to leave them a little bit longer. But for the spurs that aren't going to go on a fan mount, maybe you're going to put them on a necklace or like on a pegboard or something like that, I cut them a little bit shorter. Either way you cut them, this thing will do a really good job. All right, so this is the finished product. These are a set of spurs from a gobbler that my buddy killed, and I'm going to be making it into a mount for him. This is a spur that off a turkey I killed a couple of years ago, and I don't have the matching one because a dog chewed the other foot up. These are spurs off a gobbler I killed this year, but they're not going onto a mount. They're probably going to go onto a pegboard or something cool like that. And then these are the spurs off of the big gobbler I killed this year. They're going to go on a mount for myself. So now that these are done, we're going to drop them into the buck boiler. They're going to cook for 2 hours, and then I'm going to come back and remove the skin. If you guys want to know how to make one of these for yourself, I'll link that video up here. They're super awesome for doing Euro mounts. You can use them for turkey spurs, wingbone calls, basically anything that you need to boil to get stuff off of it. They work awesome, and your wife won't yell at you for using one of the pots. So it's been about an hour and 45 minutes, and I just checked on those things, and they seem like they've been in there plenty long enough for me to do what I need to do with them. So I'm going to pull them out, I'm going to try to get the skin off, and I'm going to try to hollow out the inside. So these are what these things look like when they come out of the boiler. And the skin actually looks pretty loose on them. I had them in there for about an hour and 45 minutes. I'm going to take this knife, and I'm basically going to hold these things and try to peel the skin off of them like an apple. I've got a flat tip screwdriver in case any of the skin decides to stick, and that'll allow me to hold it and scrape it without fear of like cutting myself if it slips off of there. And then I got this little pick that I'm going to use to push the bone marrow out through the holes. It's pretty skinny. I use this a lot on Euro mounts. I'm going to get to it. That one actually had a little bit of stuff in it. So that mostly got everything out. What it didn't get out, I believe, I can just go to the sink and pressure rinse out. So that's good. Now I'm going to take this knife and try to get the skin away from the bone on the spur. And I'll actually probably start at the top here and see if I can just kind of peel this stuff away like the skin of an apple. And so far, that's working pretty good. I'm finding a lot of this stuff scrapes off pretty easy with my fingernail once I get the initial skin off. And that's helping me be pretty delicate. Plus, these things are kind of hard to slide a knife onto. If you do decide to use a knife for this, use a super dull one. Because you're basically, in fact, a butter knife would be perfect. Because it doesn't take much to cut this stuff. And if you have a sharp knife and it slips off of here where you're cutting it, you're going to do some damage to yourself. So this is one of the bigger ones. And what it looks like when you got it basically clean. And I think what I'll end up doing with these once I'm done with them is I'll probably have to let them dry overnight and then come back in the morning and sand them just a little bit to get a lot of those fine fibers and stuff out of there. And then after that is when I'll probably start the whitening process on these guys. Okay, so this is what we are left with after the initial cleaning process. I'll probably let these guys sit in some baking soda or some salt overnight, and then I will go to scraping on them a little bit more and probably take a little bit of sandpaper to them. So this was actually pretty easy. It only took me about 20 minutes to do all of these, and it's notable that there are two little tiny bones on the front part of this thing, like right here, that you got to get out because there's some meat between these and the bigger bone. And then on the back side of them right here, there's a big bone that sits in here that you got to make sure that you get. The other thing is you want to be careful where you're cutting because like on this spur, they have a sheath over them. And I cut a little bit into the sheath. Luckily it was on the back side so it won't show and I can super glue it back down. But there really wasn't a whole lot to this part right here. The needle nose pliers came in handy because there was some parts that were hard to grab. A flat, like a butter knife or a very, very dull knife was good for scraping and stuff like that. And then this pick was really, really beneficial as far as getting the marrow and stuff out of these guys right here. But that's going to do it for me today. I'm running out of daylight. I will check back in with you guys tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll scrape on these a little bit more if we need to. And we should be able to start the whitening process. Alright, so when I left last night, I thought I would maybe have to sand on these things a little bit because they still looked a little rough, but the drying process, when I got back and looked at these today, they were actually really clean. I took a knife and I scraped off some stuff, but they were really, really clean actually. So what I'm going to do now, and this is the same process I use for whitening deer skulls and stuff, is I'm going to take some Salon Care 40. I'm going to thicken it up into a paste with some baking soda, and I'm going to paint these things and probably let them sit overnight, and then we should have a finished product in the morning, unless I need to whiten them again. But most of the time with this method I don't have to, so I'm going to paint them, and then we'll check on them later. All right, so here's our finished product. Did not turn out too bad. The whitening process really brought those out. I still think they're drying up a little bit. And this guy right here and a couple of the other ones have some like grease spots. You can see them right up here on the ends of it. And I think those are because I didn't clean the turkey legs immediately after killing them. I let them sit in my closet for a month or two, and I think that the bone marrow and some of the grease and stuff from the meat kind of sinks into the bone. In my experience, because I've had some Wingbone Calls do this, that stuff will dry out eventually, but it doesn't look pretty right away. So next time I think I'll do that immediately after the kill. But guys, that is it for me on this video. If you like it, make sure that you like the video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you drop a comment below. If you have a good way to get these little grease spots out of these bones, whether it's on a Wingbone Call or spur, I'd like to hear about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.